Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I'm truly delighted to have you here for today's session in our educational psychology course. Today's lecture is going to take you on a journey through some of the most important ideas about how children grow, learn, and adapt not in isolation but through a web of relationships, environments, and cultural influences. We are going to connect theory of practice because it's one thing to read about models in a textbook and another to see how they explain what's happening in real classroom, real families and real communities. By the end of this chapter, you will understand how Bronfenbrenner's bioecological model explains the layers of influence on a child's development, how gender, culture, ethnicity and language shape learning, the impact of socio-economic status and how schools can close the gap. And most importantly, how all these factors are interconnected. So let's begin. When we talk about socio-cultural factors, we are talking about the things in society and culture that shape how we learn, the values we grow up with, the languages we speak at home, the opportunities our families have, and the way our community sees education. You might think that in an equal society, everyone has the same chance to succeed. But the reality is, outcomes often tell a different story. Two children can sit in the same classroom, hear the same lesson, and yet have completely different experiences based on their home language, family support, access to resources, cultural expectations. As teachers, psychologists, or caregivers, our job is to understand those contexts and create environments where every learner gets a fair shot. While socio-cultural factors undeniably shape the learning environment and experiences, understanding a child's development requires us to go beyond just the immediate context. This is where Bronfenbrenner's bioecological model comes in, offering a comprehensive lens to examine the dynamic interplay of various factors influencing a child's growth over time. Bronfenbrenner's gives us powerful framework to see the bigger picture. He says development is not just about what's inside the child, it's about the interaction between process, daily interaction like teacher-student relationship, person, the child's abilities, motivation and background. Context, family, school, culture, society. Time, how all this changes as the child grows. For example, think of a student named Kate. She is smart and curious, always eager to ask questions. In one school, teachers, parents, and friends support her so she grows confident. In another, her questions are ignored and she becomes quiet. The same child can shine or fade depending on the system around her. Kate's experience is highlighting how the interactions within her environment can either nurture or hinder her development. This brings us to the concept of proximal process, the daily two-way interaction that are truly the engines behind a child's growth. Whether positive or negative, these processes play a pivotal role in shaping who a child becomes. For example, a teacher encouraging curiosity with harder tasks helps a child succeed, but a peer group bullying someone can push them into silence. The key point here is Children influence their surroundings just as much as their surroundings influence them. The proximal process focuses on the immediate daily interaction that drive development. Bronfenbrenner's concept of context expands this view, showing how a child's growth is influenced by multiple layers of their environment, from direct relationships to broader societal factors. Bronfenbrenner described it like nested circle: microsystem, direct contact family, school, peers, mesosystem. The link between those microsystems like parent-teacher relationships. Exosystem, indirect influence like a parent's stressful job affecting home life. Macrosystem, cultural values, laws, traditions. Chronosystem, how all of this changes over time. As the layers of context shape a child's experience, it is equally important to remember that the individual child, with their own unique characteristics, plays a central role in how they interact with and influenced by these systems. This brings us to the person factor, the individual traits and abilities that define each learner. This is the child's own age, skills, personality, and even things like appearance or gender that can influence how others treat them. It's a reminder that while systems matter, each learner is unique. Bronfenbrenner's model gives us a comprehensive look at how a child's development is influenced by interaction, environment, and time. Now let's zoom in on another powerful factor: gender. The cultural expectations placed on boys and girls shape their educational experiences, affecting everything from their classroom participation to their sense of self. Understanding this dynamic is key to fostering a more equitable and empowering learning environments for all students. Gender and development. Gender is more than biology. It is also shaped by cultural expectations placed on boys and girls, which can deeply influence education. These expectations affect the subjects students choose, their confidence in speaking up, and even how teachers treat them, often unconsciously. For example, a teacher might encourage boys to join robotics but overlook inviting girls, assuming they would prefer literature instead of math. Such small repeated actions create patterns where boys are seen as better suited for science and technology, while girls are directed towards arts or language. Over time, this can lower girls' confidence in STEM fields and reinforce boys' unwillingness to hunt creative areas. These indirect messages matter because they shape not just participation but also long-term achievement. Ultimately, gender expectations interact with education in ways that can either limit or expand opportunities, highlighting how culture and environment influence learning outcomes. As we have seen, the cultural expectations placed on boys and girls can significantly influence their educational paths. These expectations not only shape participation but also affect how boys and girls approach learning in different areas. Let's explore how gender differences manifest in cognitive abilities, emotional expression, and identity pressure within the classroom. Gender differences in learning. Cognitive. Girls often have a slight edge in verbal tasks. Boys sometimes excel in geometric reasoning, but there is a huge overlap, and skills can be developed with practice. Emotional. Cultural norms may encourage girls to express emotions but push boys to hide weakness. Identity pressures, peer groups, family, and media often reinforce stereotypes, making it harder for children to explore interest free. Our role: create classrooms that challenge stereotypes, offer equal opportunities, and let students define themselves. Today, we have walked through some of the most important ideas in educational psychology. We begin by looking at socio-cultural factors and why they matter so much for learning. These factors remind us that children never grow in isolation. They are always shaped by family, peers, and schools communities, and the wider culture around them. Each layer plays a role. From the different encouragement of parents to broader expectations of the society. Then we explored Bronfenbrenner's bioecological model, which helps us see how these different layers of environment, from immediate relationships to broad societal forces, work together to influence development. This model emphasizes the dynamic interaction between children and their context, showing how growth happens through constant two-way exchanges. Finally, we consider gender not just as biology but as expectations, belief, and indirect cues that affect students' choices, participation, and confidence in the classroom. Gender expectations may appear small in the moment, yet they accumulate into patterns that shape confidence, achievement, and opportunity. In our next session, we will go deeper into culture and ethnicity in learning, exploring how diverse backgrounds shape perspectives and opportunities. We will also discuss the impact of socio-economic status and turn theory into practice, looking at strategies for creating inclusive classrooms where every child feels seen, valued, supported, and able to succeed. This will include practical examples of how teachers can design lesson plans, activities, and real-world teaching decisions that reflect diversity, equity, and fairness in everyday practice. Thank you for your attention and engagement. Assalamu alaikum and goodbye.